time. We're uncaged.
Welcome to Topple Uncaged. I'm Steve Topple and you're locked on to the UK's hottest politics and music podcast. Each week I bring you the rawest takes on the big stories making the news, always joined by a very special guest. Then I pleasure your mind, body and soul with the freshest, most banging international music going.
Uncaged.
Hey, I'll bag utensils. Leave a man nicely cut up like Banksy stencils. I make the bacon roll and bring it back in red sauce. I'm on another frequency, I'm hearing pets talk. I'm getting them all gassed up without the petrol. I'm hearing them all talking, so I'm saying let's talk. See a man hush, going on some next walk. Dodgy character, I bet that he injects chalk. Are you dumb? Are you stupid? Are you mad? And are you crazy? Too many man.
Regular listeners to this podcast will know that my girlfriend Nicola, you can follow her on Twitter, it's at Nicola C. Jeffrey. Nicola always moans at me because she says I lavish too much praise on artists. And as I always say to her, it's only because I have the best artists on this podcast who I think are amazing and an exciting talent. And my guest on this week's show is no exception to that rule. I do think, seriously, he is one of the most exciting UK rappers out there at the moment. He effortlessly glides between different styles. He spits like the best of them with some real, in my opinion, sort of old school hip hop sensibilities. But more than that, he is talking about subjects which some artists would not even touch with a barge pole. He is extremely skilled and he's a lovely guy already. Been chatting to him off air. I'm very excited to welcome him onto the podcast. It is Anon the Artist. Anon, thank you so much for coming on to do this. It took us a while to get here, didn't it, actually? There's a bit of dramas trying to get you on, but we got there in the end. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I do. Thank you.
Let's cut to the chase, because I'm always interested in people's backstories, if you like, not in a Simon Cowell X Factor kind of journey kind of way. What was your journey? And we'll see you weeping by someone's grave or something. Not that kind of journey, but your proper musical journey. Like I said in the introduction, you are a skilled rapper and lyricist. When did you realise that you sort of had a talent for music and specifically rap and writing rhymes?
Do you know what? When I was younger, I used to seclude myself. I was very much a loner. Right? Like at school, I was a class clown, but when I went home, I didn't socialise with anybody. I just sort of stayed in my room, and I used to listen to like So Solid Crew, Dizzy Rascal, Wiley on Upfront FM and that. And then like I used to think, yeah, man, I could do this MCing thing, you know, and like get out some, like how I feel and stuff. And then I used to come out with deep lyrics, and people used to think like, oh, this kid's like 15, 16, and he's like spitting garage MC lyrics, but like about how he's feeling and shit, instead of just like, you know what I mean, standard flows. And then from there, I started listening to rap, and then I was just like, I feel this rap thing as well. And it just any way to write, I was just writing how I felt really from like 15, 16.
I mean, it's the best way to start if it's natural, because a lot of artists kind of, not so much rap artists, but some of the artists go down there, I went and trained at stage school and blah, 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 blah. But it's often like, they come across as a bit sort of false and manufactured. And I think doing it naturally, especially writing about what you're feeling, is the best way to be. It's interesting you say that you sort of were listening to Grime and then sort of looked more into rap, because as I said in the introduction, you are really kind of musically diverse if you look at your catalogue of tracks. I mean, so you go from something like 420, which is essentially real sort of hip hop sensibilities in terms of how it's arranged, the percussion. You've kind of got the snare and the hi hats going on, and the way you rap. And then you go full on drill, which again is brilliant, and you do it masterfully. You go full on drill with ouncing, and then you flip to your most recent two singles, Medicated and Medicated Part 2, which we'll get into them later. They're kind of hip hop ballads, if you like. You're extremely talented at being diverse and being able to turn your skills at rhyming to anything. Is that a reflection in like your own musical taste? Do you just listen to grime or hip hop, or is it just because you feel that certain lyrics and certain subjects matter sort of fit into certain genres? What makes you so diverse?
Yeah, to be honest, it's the music I listen to, you know. Like one day I could wake up and I'll be like, I'm going to listen to a bit of Logic or a bit of Cadet, or like, do you know what I mean? Some deep rap or something like that. Next day I can wake up and I want to listen to some Tracy Chapman greatest hits. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come on, shout out Tracy Chapman. and then like, yeah, so like, and then the next day I wake up and I'll just be feeling like, yeah, whoever, like Lowski or someone like that, do you know what I mean? And I'll just be feeling that drill thing. So, and then I'm just like, I get inspired real easily. That's the thing with what I've got, borderline personality disorder. My feelings and emotions are real extreme. So if I'm low, I'm real low. But if I'm inspired, I'm real fucking inspired. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm about to make fucking 4 tracks of this right now. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'll write about everything and it will just flow. I won't even think. And then within a couple of hours, I've wrote 3-4 tracks and people just like, man, you know what I mean? And then, but that is why, man, I just, every day I wake up listening to music and it's different every day. Like, it's literally different. And I love listening to new music as well. Like, you know what I mean? When people say, oh, check this artist out, I'll look deep into them, look at all their interviews, everything there. If there's any behind the scenes footage, I want to get to know everything about that artist. You know what I mean? And then that just inspires me massively, man.
Well, it's great that you are so diverse and, like I say, extremely, extremely masterful at it. You touched on the fact you live with borderline personality disorder, and I want to get into a bit about that now, because the most recent 2 tracks you've released are Medicated and Medicated Part 2, which are about mental health. So, first track, Medicated, it's this stunning track. It's composed by the Grime violinist who is amazing. I think she's extremely, again, another really talented artist. It's this hip hop ballad. I mean, she has this haunting sort of violin line running through it. You then have your vocals, which again, it shows how masterful you are, but it shows also that you're kind of grounded more in hip hop, in my opinion. You go from kind of this low pitched kind of calm rap, which you then eventually flip up at points into this higher pitched kind of almost angry and kind of desperate kind of rap, as it were. And there's complex rhyming patterns going on in there as well. You don't stick to just one sort of rhythmical sequence, as it were. And a brilliant video, which I'll touch on in a bit as well. Then you go to Medicated Part 2, which again is fantastic, and different artists with you on that one. Mick Pankhurst is brilliant vocalist, he's great on it. But again, your rhyming style and your delivery in terms of your pitch is absolutely superb. And the whole thing is brilliantly brought together with videos by is Lee Prophet.
Yeah, Liam Prophet, yeah.
Fucking stunning videos, and they tell a story, and so you get part of the story in part 1, and then you go into part 2, which sort of brings the story to its conclusion. And obviously, I'm not going to give away what happens in the videos, because I want people to go and watch them. And the whole thing, I mean, I have to say, they're 2 of the most powerful tracks I've heard this year, and I listen to a lot of different styles of music, and they're so powerful. Firstly, because of the video. I mean, it's top quality filmmaking, and because of the video. Secondly, because of the musical arrangement and musical production. But what makes them so powerful, and we'll talk about this in a bit, is the fact that your delivery and your ability to get a message across through not only your music but through your lyrics as well, and get it across to an audience which wouldn't necessarily ever discuss mental health or talk about mental health. That's probably one of the most powerful things about it. There are few people doing what you actually do out there at the minute, and I found both tracks like really stunning and really moving as well. And you should be extremely proud of what you've done. They're absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
And
I really appreciate it.
Links to them will obviously be in the show notes. I mean, essentially the story is a sort of a man who's desperate and battling with his mental health, and you're quite open about the fact that it is based on your own experience. I mean, why did you come to the conclusion to go, right, I'm going to put this shit down on paper and then turn it into music? Why did you come to that decision, and was it a difficult one to be so like raw in what you're saying?
No, do you know what it was? All right, I'll break it down to you properly then, yeah? So, I said I started writing at like a young age, and then basically I hit a bad mental health stage at like 16, 17. I stopped music altogether for like 10, 12 years and just was in a real bad place. Then I had real bad things happening in my life that led to me writing a suicide note. And the starting line of that suicide note was basically saying, everyone's saying I'm crazy, I'm twisted, this, that, and the other. And then I just sort of broke down and then had this whole thinking thing of, actually, let me go back to the one thing that I was ever good at, and that was writing music. And that was the only way I could get shit off my chest, because I wasn't getting seen by therapists, I was getting passed around people, and I just thought, fuck it, let me just try and pull it out like this. And then I wrote it, and then in my head I already knew like how I wanted it all to go, and that was the first song that I wrote coming back, and then I released the other shit, but I was sitting on this because I just knew it was something different, do you know what I mean? I knew there was such a strong message there that I didn't want to just do it quick, and then man, that's kind of how it all came together. I just thought, and then when I heard the second one, I just thought, I need to write a part 2. Like, when I heard the beat, I was like, I need to finish it. And then in my head, I already knew how the video was going to be. I knew it was going to be based on my life and people not really paying attention of the signs that I was struggling and how I felt secluded in that. And my style, I wanted people not to feel secluded. I want them to hear that and go, wow, no, I'm not the only one that's going through that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how it all come about. So it was all from a suicide note, really.
Blimey, that's quite a story, and you're spot on that, making people feel that they're not just out there battling it on their own, and that comes across brilliantly from both tracks. Can I always do this. I have a script and then I essentially just tear it up, and I go off onto other tangents. I just want to I want to talk a bit about what you say in the tracks and what you just touched on then, that you were sort of being passed from pillar to post as such and not really getting the support. And that's when I listened to the tracks for about the third time, because I listen when I'm speaking to an artist, and when I like something I listen to it, and I listen to it again, and I listened to it about the third time, and I was sort of thinking, he sounded like he didn't get any support that he needs, even though he was obviously in the system in terms of mental health. He wasn't getting the support he needs. I mean, was that, I'm interested, so your experience was that no one was really helping you in the way they should have done, and they were just sort of, people were just saying you're crazy, you're bad, as it were. Was that your experience?
So like, I realised that friends and family were cutting me off because I was this bad person, I was doing these bad traits, but there was, nothing wrong with me at the time, because since young, doctors just said I was depressed. But when I finally got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder at the time, now it's called emotionally unstable personality disorder. When I got diagnosed with that, and they listed all of these traits, I was just like, they've literally just listed my whole life of things that I've been doing wrong, maybe because of this, and now I understand this, do you know what I mean? And so, for ages I was misdiagnosed, and I was given this medication just for depression, which was just making me feel so shit. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't helping me. And then when I was finally diagnosed and I got my therapy and I started getting my help and I was on the correct medication, everything started making sense and I started seeing things clearly, and I thought, okay, now I understand that I do that because of this, so now I can try and overcome that, even if it takes a little bit of therapy or whatever, you know what I mean? I get a little bit of help, and then I know what obstacles I need to overcome. It's going to take some time, but at least I can sort of manage my life somewhat now, you know what I mean? And my lows, when the lows hit, I know that they're going to pass, do you know what I mean? And there's going to be real good days, so I just need to ride that shit out now, man. But I was passed around like therapists, and the thing is, where I had no fixed abode, I was passed around therapists, and then they would be like, I'll be near on a waiting list, nearly at the front, and then, oh, you've moved area, now you got to go on this waiting list. Oh, it's another 8 months. And I wasn't getting seen I was getting seen once or twice in a year, and it was just like, mate, I need some real help, you know what I mean? And I felt like no one was doing it. So it was more of Medicated was more of a cry for help, innit? It was more of like, someone fucking start listening, man, because real talk, it wasn't good.
No, absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, your experience is probably familiar to a lot of people and a lot of listeners listening, actually, because I mean, you know as well as I do that when you're kind of on the bottom rungs of society, if you like, the provision for mental health services isn't great, and all they'll do, been there myself, all they do is dump you on tablets, and basically, there was a line in, I think it was part 1, where you said something along the lines of basically like muddying your brain. Basically, they'll shove you on tablets to sedate you and shut you up. Essentially, is basically what they do, and it's a real postcode lottery with that. If you live in the wrong postcode, like where I live around here, you essentially the postcode becomes a dumping ground for people with mental health issues who have just been shoved on medication. They get no other support. There's a real sort of class aspects to healthcare in this country, and I think you've sort of touched on that quite well in both tracks. Go and grab yourself a tea, coffee, or if you attend 420, something else, because me and Anon will be back with some more chat in a few seconds. So, like I said, they are quite, well, in my opinion, they're very groundbreaking, actually, in terms of what you've done, talking about mental health to an audience in a genre of music which might not often talk about that. And I imagine what's helped with that is a mutual sort of friend of ours, the fantastic Corey Johnson from Defenders Entertainment, who is the label you're at. I interviewed Corey a few weeks ago. You can check it out. It's on my podcast links. He's a great guy, really lovely guy. I had a great time going down to the studio and chatting to him. And he runs it's a really progressive kind of record label in terms of the way it deals with artists and the support and the environment it puts them in. I mean, how's your experience of working with Corey Johnson, working at and for Defenders Entertainment? How has it been for you? Because it seems great from my point of view.
Yeah, no, the studios are good there, man. The atmosphere is good there. Do you know what I mean? Like, trust, but every time I've been in there, I've got real creative. Like, it's just a good positive vibe. You know what I mean? Good place to chill, good atmosphere. It's good. I like it down there, man. I really like it. Do you know what I mean? I like what they do and stuff. I like his ambition. Do you know what I mean? His ambitions that he's got. I like what he's doing with people. So yeah, man.
He is really good. I mean, what I like about him is he's taken artists who usually no one would give a shit about and wouldn't sort of take a second glance at, and giving them a platform and giving them opportunities to express themselves. And that's extremely important at the minute, especially when it comes to grime and drill, because grime and drill is sort of blowing up at the minute. Grime's blown up for a few years, but drill's sort of coming into its own sort of since last year, really. And of course, what's happened is because there's a rise in violent crime in London, as is always the case, you can trace it back to sort of jazz in the 1920s, to rock and roll in the 50s, to hip hop in the 80s and 90s, via garage, now to grime and drill. This music is being blamed for the rise in violent crime because young kids shouldn't be talking about their life experience, and it's obviously inciting violence, yada, 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 which you always hear. I mean, it's always been the case that sort of street music, and especially from ethnic minorities, has always been blamed for what's going on in society. But I always think people would be wise to this shit now. When you get the newspapers and the government going, oh, drill, we should be banning this music, and when artists like Skengdo get fucking court orders and get suspended jail sentences for the fucking mentioning wrong postcode and mentioning another gang, etc., etc. The music always gets blamed for what are essentially problems with the system and the society we live in, but that don't get talked about. But in the age of social media, you think it wouldn't wash. I mean, why do you think sort of government and the media still gets away with blaming urban music for what's wrong in society? How do they still get away with this narrative?
Because it's the government, man. They get away with everything, man. Like you said it yourself in the question. Like, they've been blaming whatever they can for the problems that are going on in this country. When it was rock and roll, it was blaming rock and roll for cocaine and the cocaine epidemic, and it's just anything. As soon as grime was coming up, it was because of grime that happy slapping was happening, and kids' phones were getting jacked. Like, do you know what I mean? Now it's drill's music. Nah, it's just because these kids are talking about what they're living. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're living in the trap, that's all you really know. That's what you can talk about. If you're living in whatever you're doing, do you know what I mean? If you're a crackhead, that's all you can talk about. Do you know what I mean? Like, either way, like, it's vice versa. So the government, they get away with everything, man. Fucking, don't get me started on the government.
No, you can go on, get started on the government. That's part of what this podcast's about.
They do, innit? Like, they do, man. Like, they get away with everything, and if they want to blame that, then they'll get it in the media, and then suddenly the whole nation will think it's because of that. Do you know what I mean? So
And it's infuriating because it is literally up and down throughout history, as you quite rightly and well pointed out about rock and roll and the cocaine epidemic. I mean, it's just mad, and it happens literally throughout history, and we're never wise enough to solve it either. I mean, you'd think by now we would have learned that, right? Okay, so they're blaming this music. That means it's actually their fault, but we don't seem to get to that point at all. But artists like you are extremely good at sort of breaking down stuff and breaking down barriers. There's a good lot of kind of more conscious artists in the sort of drill and grime scene and in the rap scene in this country, and also abroad, and like reggae music, which I have reggae artists on a lot. There's good music out there which is trying to change things, and you fit in well to that. On that note, the sort of the grime and drill scene at the minute, some of there is some conscious stuff out there, and there's artists who are doing good things, like Skengdo, who I mentioned, like Drill Minister's another one who's really, really, really good. Friend of this show, he's great, I like him a lot. A guy called Marcy Phonics, who I've had on before, he's tackling some stuff head on. UK hip hop, you got the likes of Loki, who blew up a couple of months ago when he dropped his first track off his new album. All these conscious artists doing sort of good stuff with the music, but as I said, you're kind of exception to that, with you talking about mental health specifically. I mean, do you think artists, especially sort of drill and grime artists, need to be doing more to kind of raise awareness of mental health issues, but of sort of politics and social issues more broadly? Is there more they can be doing with their music, would you like to see?
I don't know, man. Like you say, there are people that are doing it, you know what I mean? There's people that are doing bits. I mean, and I think, like, I don't know, like, each artist is their own artist, innit? Do you know what I mean? Only they'll talk about what, and they'll like disclose what they want to disclose. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's their own person. Like, the reason I'm so open with mine is because I knew that's what I needed at the time. And I think sometimes, like, if some artists would look at, yo, what did I need at the time, at some point in my life? Do you know what I mean? Why did I look to music? Do you know what I mean? To help me for shit. Because that's 99% of the time, that's why people are in music, because they look at, you know what I mean? It's their life. They look for like, to help them through shit. And that's why now I make my music to help people going through mental health, because that's what I needed at the time. Do you know what I mean? So I think if these other artists kind of think, do you know what we need is this? Let me try and make this to make, you know what I mean? Because some big artists have got such an impact on the nation that they could make one song that could literally make everyone talk about some shit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but they don't. They just make stuff about summer bangers just to get more streams or something. And I just think all you need to do is make one tune just to raise some awareness about some shit, you know. But we're on a journey there, man. We're gonna try and get there, and we'll keep doing it. Do you know what I mean? We'll keep doing what we do. And
yeah, but that is exactly my point. You nailed it, where you, as you quite rightly say, if some of these artists just did literally one track, which was something more conscious or something about a specific political point or political message, literally, shit could change very quickly if more artists were doing that, instead of, as you say, summer bangers with a fucking Afro beat kind of hook to it and blah, 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 blah. I mean, you say, again, I'm going off sort of,
no, go on.
I'm going off my list of questions here. But I mean, you say obviously you did sort of Medicated and Medicated Part 2. But I mean, your stuff about cannabis is also quite politicised. I mean, you did, like I mentioned earlier on, track 420 about that. It's a highly sort of, well, it's only controversial because the media and the government make it controversial. But okay, it's an important subject in this country that everyone's kind of skirting around the issue of, and everyone's afraid to address. But so, I mean, 420 was a sort of pretty politically charged track. Is sort of cannabis and the whole demonisation of it and the nonsense that surrounds, it's damaging and this is bad for people's mental health and all this crap. Yeah. That's obviously something which is you're big on as well, talking about. Yeah, for real, man. Like, no, big up the dank community every time. 420 all day, every day. Come on. But yeah, no. I fucking, mate, I've smoked for a while, man. And the time when I did come off and stop smoking, it just, like, my borderline was so much more erratic. Like, and then when I was smoking,
it was just a lot more smoother. Like I was trying to explain it to one of my therapists once, and I was like, it's literally like a heartbeat. Like, do you know what I mean? Where it's a nice steady pace when I want to smoke, and I've had a little smoke to just chill myself out. The minute I don't, or I'm going without it for a few days, I start noticing it just like this all of a sudden, and it's just like staying up here and then it's dropping down here. So I'm just I have my little smoke, and I think it should just be legalized. And they're doing it right in LA right now, man. They're doing it right in the States. Do you know what I mean? State by state, they're decriminalizing it, man. And do you know what I mean? They're making it for what's the word? Medicinal.
Yeah.
Medicinal purposes. Yeah, and that's how you know. I mean, there's CBD buds now, like in shops in the UK that you can get it, you know. But I mean, and I rate that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's more like a muscle relaxant. So I mean, it just chills you out a little bit. So it does help your anxieties and stuff like that. But I like the flavors in that as well when it come out.
Obviously, I can possibly comment about what flavors are, listeners. I know nothing about cookies and cream and all that stuff. And whatever else is going around. I don't actually smoke. I don't smoke it. I used to. Everyone who knows me knows I used to smoke it, but I don't smoke it anymore because I'm alcoholic. I've been dry for 3 years.
Oh man!
And I don't like. I don't touch anything. As an addict, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna stick to cigarettes. But obviously, I totally support legalizing cannabis. And I think it's an important topic, another important topic, because as you say, because of the medicinal stuff. So, and yeah, 420 is great. What happens there every year. I should recommend listeners to check it out. Anyway, just to wrap up, Anon, so what you told me off air, and I was like, no, tell me when we're recording. What has 2019 got in store for you for the rest of the year?
Oh, yeah.
So we've got Medicated and Medicated Part 2. What else is coming up, please?
So I've got the EP Diagnosed.
Hey.
And that's basically about finally being diagnosed, having this weight lifted, like I said to you. Like it's mainly a load of it's 6 tracks just telling you about me, innit? It's just a little introduction about me. At the same time, I'm working on like a few other tracks, which and videos and stuff like that, which we're just doing on the side at the moment to just drop like alongside all of that. So yeah, man, just loads of music. It's gonna be constant now.
And when is the EP going to drop?
We're looking at next month, I think.
Is it soon? Is it?
Yeah, soon. Yeah. It's already. It's done. It's been done for a long time, about 8-9 months now. It's been done. Yeah, and I've got about 30-40 tracks just sat there ready.
Bloody hell, okay. Well, tell Corey from me that he needs to pull his finger out of his arse and get it released.
Will do.
Anon, I really enjoyed chatting to you. It's been great speaking to you. You're such a talented artist. I think what you're doing is absolutely brilliant. You're really, 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 really good, and I'm so looking forward to the EP. Will you please come back on when you drop that, and we'll discuss the EP at length?
100%, man. 100%.
Nice one, excellent. For the minute, Anon, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Love, my bro. Take care, man.
What an amazing guy Anon is. I really enjoyed chatting to him, and I think he's brilliant in terms of the fact he is breaking down these barriers between topics which might not always be discussed in certain genres of music, and the fact he's bringing them out in the open. It's absolutely brilliant. And here is one of the Medicated tracks. This is the first one, Medicated Part 1. It's absolutely stunning. All power to the Grime violinists as well for getting involved. So here it is, Medicated by Anon the Artist.
Start again. We've got a second chance. You could go home. Escape it all. It's just irrelevant. It's just medicine.
Since day one, they said I was crazy twisted. Couldn't be a sicker guy, constantly judging my brethren's drifted. Self-destructive, so reluctant to accept I was mentally shifted. They say that I'm borderline, bro. Apparently they put a label on this shit. Psychopath, sociopath, suicidal, yeah, that's what they say. Call me weak, you ain't even last an hour, don't let alone a day. Look, I'm a fighter though, but that's what I want you to know. The other personal shit that I wrote in my suicide note, it just ain't for show. Look, where do I start? How do you wanna see into the heart? How do you wanna see into the soul with no light, feared, constantly dark? My story ain't like yours, bruv. My story ain't got 3 parts. I've got that middle and ending sorted. Childhood's destiny, I had no start. Mentally blocked, mentally scarred, mentally fucked up. So many mental mentalities that the fatalities that get plugged up. I get passed round therapists, one to the next, on to the next. Next time that it's on to the next, let's cut to our meds and it's on to the death bed. Is it serious now? But when my neck, yeah, it's serious now. Plans to die, a regular occurrence, nightly, bro, so serious now. Don't look so surprised, I know you couldn't see in the eyes. I was always the one with the banter, now it's just hatred and therapy ties. Yeah.
What you want to,
Look,
what you said you were.
I had to get this out, man. 14 years in the making for this.
You've got a beautiful brain, but it's disintegrating.
To come with that mood. Look. I don't deal with the punks, I don't deal with them Ashton Kutchers. That trouble they're causing beef, people are starting to call me the butchers. I might sell to the gangsters.
And that's it. This very special episode of Topple Uncaged is done. I'd like to thank my fantastic guest, the sensational Anon the Artist. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at Anon_the_artist. As always, behind the scenes, thank you to the love of my life, the gorgeous Nicola Jeffrey. Follow her on Twitter. It's at Nicola C. Jeffrey. My man behind the booth, sound engineer Gav Pause. Follow him on Twitter. It's at Pause with a Z Radio. And my in-house singer, it's Raystar Music. Follow her on Twitter. It's at Ray_star113. Thank you to the Canary for uncaging me. I will see you again soon.
Uncaged.